our level of assistance for big public events for Mardi Gras has been raised to the level that it is for the Super Bowl, which is really good news for supplementing our police force, which we all know is just not as big as I think anyone wants it to be at this point.
And so this is called a Tier 1 level of protection. And so this means that significant events, and when just giving you a description from Homeland Security, this means significant events with national or international importance that require extensive federal interagency support. And so what does this role mean as far as it plays with the events for the upcoming Super Bowl and the upcoming Mardi Gras season? Explosive detection canine teams, cyber risk assessments, venue screening, and field intelligence teams, and air security and tactical operations support, something we desperately need.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I think we're all reeling still from this attack that happened on New Year's Day, and this is just an additional level of security for Carnival, which is, of course, even harder to protect all of our citizens who are out on the parade routes and at these different balls. And, you know, especially again with that lower level of our police force right now, lower numbers in terms of manpower. So this is just going to allow the feds to bring in more resources, which I think everyone would agree the city desperately needs.
We want to go back out to Louis Armstrong International Airport. Amelia Strahan standing by, where Air Force One probably just coming down, right?
Yes, it just touched down. It's taxiing back this way now. It's out of sight, but it's coming back over here. It should be here any minute now. So President Biden should be on the tarmac in the next few minutes. We also have some state reps on Air Force One as well. We have Congressman Troy Carter as well as Chloe Fields. They will be coming down as well. We know that Jeff Landry should be meeting with the president here at MSY. We spoke with their office this morning. I'm going to go ahead and step out of the frame because I saw some security cars drive through. I believe they're going to be taxiing around this way any moment. We know the First Lady is going to be with the president today as they go to St. Louis Cathedral in Jackson Square and go to a prayer service and grieve with those families. Of course, just less than a week after 14 innocent people lost their lives in that Bourbon Street attack. Both Landry and Mayor LaToya Cantrell have asked for federal dollars to help secure the city ahead of Mardi Gras and to help those victims that are alive, many of them still fighting in the hospital. So we're not sure if the president will be taking questions, but that is something we plan to ask him. What would that funding look like? The press secretary is going to be on board with the president as well as some security advisors. It'll be interesting to see, once the plane does pull over, who from the state and city will be here to greet him as well.
Yeah, Amelia, that is certainly the name of the event today. It is grieving, it is mourning, it is trying to wrap our minds around what happened, and that is the St. Louis Cathedral at this hour where preparations are underway on the other side of your screen. It is expected to be a very moving and meaningful service. We are planning on covering it live tonight if anyone wants to tune in and watch that. But President Biden is expected to actually participate in the service and make some remarks there at St. Louis Cathedral. And at this hour, you can see Air Force One taxiing in as he makes his way through the airport tarmac. And he will eventually deplane there, get in a presidential motorcade after being greeted by a number of notable guests and people who are important in the community.
Yeah, state and local officials and some dignitaries as well.
Dignitaries, that's the word.
He will be greeting, usually, as we've seen this play out before, when any president visits New Orleans, dignitaries and any officials will be greeting him as he steps off of Air Force One. And as Katie just mentioned, he will be making his way to visit not only with some of the local officials to discuss ways that we can protect the city and really the events that are coming up. And really, when you think about this, is essentially is bigger than just protecting the state of Louisiana. This was an attack on America, and so now there's heightened security and heightened FBI and heightened security levels in New Orleans and all around as they investigate more about the attacker and his motives.
Yes, Shamsud Din Jabbar, who ran a truck into a crowd on Bourbon Street in the early morning hours of New Year's Day. Of course, 14 people were killed in that attack. Many more, up to 30, were actually hurt. Many of those are still in the hospital as we are covering the president's visit today, still suffering from their injuries, still trying to recover and move beyond the hospital rooms that they have been in since the beginning of the year. Not the way that we wanted to start the year, or frankly to experience this ever. But President Biden and the First Lady Jill Biden coming here to personally meet with some of those victims and share their condolences with them and mourn with our city as they, as Cherise just mentioned, continue to investigate what has been dubbed an act of terrorism. And
we have learned new things. This feels like a very long week, but it feels that every day the FBI is releasing new information about Jabbar, about his travels, about the fact that he visited New Orleans twice, once in October, on October 31st, Halloween Day, and a second time in November before he came back through using Meta glasses. And I think that's the thing that really kind of caught everyone's attention. He used these Meta glasses to travel through the French Quarter by bicycle and targeting or staking out maybe the targets that he was looking for when he planned his attack. Yeah, he ended up planting 2 pipe bombs that were improvised explosive devices. That's the technical classification of them, but they're basically pipe bombs that had a bunch of nails and things, and when they exploded, the idea was for them to do the most damage. And those were placed in 2 locations in the French Quarter. Authorities now saying over the weekend that he was planning those specific locations using those Meta glasses and kind of mapping out his route and where he would put things, and then where he could unfortunately take the greatest number of lives. I really am concerned about the fact that, we initially reported at the FBI it was investigating the involvement of 2 to 3 other people, but they said that some people were standing around those coolers, and if you saw those coolers based on the video that they saw, one person moved them. The bomb was initially placed, I believe, on South Peter Street and Bourbon, and someone apparently just dragged the cooler down the street to Bourbon and Orleans. So people were concerned initially, in which this causes the FBI to investigate. They were concerned initially if that person was involved in this terrorist attack, and they ruled them out as being involved and said that Jabbar acted as a lone wolf in this attack. And now you take a deeper dive into what his background is, him being from Houston, finding bomb-making materials in his home in Houston and at the home of Mandeville Street that he rented when he came to New Orleans, was there less than 24 hours and attempted to set the home on fire. Yeah, and we also know now that he took several trips overseas leading up to this attack. And so I think those are some of the big questions that the federal government is going to be trying to answer as we move forward through the next few days and months. They talked this weekend about those visits, and what they wanted to do initially was to rule out whether or not he was getting any assistance from a formal terrorist group. ISIS is who he claimed association with through the flag that was on the back of the truck and through social media posts that he put up in the days leading up to this attack and even the hours leading up to the attack. But the federal government and at the design of the president is going to be taking a look at those intelligence questions. This, as Cherise said, was an attack not only on New Orleans, but it was an attack on America. And so that's why we're seeing such great federal involvement, especially as they continue with that investigation. And you can see right there, Air Force One, the door is open, and the president and First Lady are making their way to the stairs as they will deplane Air Force One. It looks like we saw him right in the back behind this gentleman right here. But as the president and Dr. Joe Biden make their way to New Orleans, there is a private meeting between President Biden and the victims' families. Then, as we have mentioned, and we're giving you live coverage on, attendance at an interfaith prayer service for peace and healing hosted by the Archdiocese of New Orleans. That starts at 6 o'clock. Yes, and they're making preparations there, as you can see, live from MSY. Secret Service, lots of security there. New Orleans police assisting in the motorcade.
That is the presidential motorcade that will be taking off. Of course, interstate exits. If you're headed out and about and have to pick up kids from school at this hour, be prepared to work your way around those interstate closures. Plan another way in order to get to your child's school, because you will not be able to get on or off the interstate once the president is in motion.
Yes, and as we wait for President Biden to come down, and looks like we saw Representative Congressman Troy Carter stepping outside of, peeking outside rather, out of Air Force One, just to let everyone know that Jeff Landry, Mayor Landrieu, excuse me, not Mayor Landrieu, but Mayor Cantrell plans to meet with the president to have a conversation about federal assistance to evaluate city plans and to identify any vulnerabilities. And that's a big question here as we move forward, as we push forward. How is it that we can protect people on the everyday lives and in the major events that we have? They want to identify those vulnerabilities and enhance security resources ahead of Carnival season, which officially kicked off today.
Yeah, Mayor Cantrell asking for additional federal money to do a survey or a study of New Orleans to identify any weaknesses and vulnerabilities like Bourbon Street that may be ripe for any sort of attack. And that is obviously an urgent request given what we've seen happen in the last few days here in New Orleans with this massacre on Bourbon Street. And hopefully that's going to be a good topic of conversation between them so that they can figure out whether or not we can actually get federal funding for those things. Now, unclear who these dignitaries are who are out there. I know Congressman Troy Carter is expected to be out there. We are also expected to see the congressman also from the Baton Rouge area and other dignitaries who are going to greet the president as he makes his way to this memorial site and to the memorial service.
And of course, again, as we mentioned, as the president makes his way through, usually interstates are shut down, so you may want to find another way to get around if you have to get kids out of school. And he did express his condolences, gave a moving statement, a moving address at Camp David, and also apparently participating in this interfaith service tonight that is happening at St. Louis Cathedral, and there will be heightened security measures for anyone who hopes to attend this service tonight.
So Congressman Troy Carter, Congressman Cleo Fields expected to greet the president. We do expect him to meet with Mayor LaToya Cantrell here in New Orleans. You would think that, you know, City Council President Helena Moreno has close ties to Kamala Harris and her campaign. You would think that she would be involved in some sort of discussion with them, but I have not confirmed that. I'm just speculating. Other dignitaries who may be involved, you know, just run the gamut of people involved in this. And there is the president.
All right, and we're going to give you a live look right now. President Biden and Dr. Jill Biden stepping out of Air Force One. Let's listen in. Very
blustery day out there. You can tell with the winds out there. They are whipping and it is cold.
Yeah, we're going through a cold front right now and some wintry weather that's happening and that we typically don't get as much in the South. But you see the President Biden greeting Mayor LaToya Cantrell. And let's see if we have, who else do we have here?
Yes. Yes, he's making his way down that gauntlet of dignitaries and elected officials, saying hello to people, greeting them, and maybe Cleo Fields.
Yeah, I'm trying to see if we can get to our reporter, Amelia Strahan, who's out there on the grounds for us. Amelia, can she tell us exactly what's happening down here?
Sorry, it's pretty windy out here. I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
No, Amelia, I know that we're seeing it live on camera, but I know that you're right there on the grounds. Can you tell us and describe what's happening right now?
Yeah, so we've got Mayor Cantrell and President Joe Biden actually just shared a pretty long hug. I think it's kind of, you know, one of those hugs that really means something after something so tragic happens, you know, right here in your home after a terrorist attack. It's an attack here in New Orleans, but also, you know, the country as well. We also saw the First Lady walk down as well. I believe I saw Troy Carter walk around the car. They have us far enough back that we can see most people. I have not seen Cleo Fields come down just yet. You can see there's a heavy police presence. There's a motorcade that I'm sure will be heading y'all's way pretty soon, but definitely a lot of police cars, a lot of law enforcement out here. As you can imagine, even just getting out here, it was quite the security measures. I have not laid eyes on Governor Landry yet. That does not mean he's not here. There are a lot of people out here right now. But I did speak to his office this morning, and he was supposed to meet the president here at MSY, so he may be in one of these vehicles. As you can see, there are quite a few parked in the area, but it looks like most people have unloaded out of the plane. From what we've seen, nobody's come down in the past few minutes. It does appear that the president is in the motorcade, ready to head down to the cathedral, where of course he's going to meet and grieve with many of the families of the victims in that terrorist attack. So, I think it means a lot to the families to have the president come and, spend time with them after something so tragic. As I mentioned, I did speak with Troy Carter this morning, who was on Air Force One. It looks like the cars are starting to roll out right now. Troy Carter spoke with me and said that he was in touch with President Biden today about providing funding for, keeping New Orleans safe, and of course also for the victims, the surviving victims. So it'll be interesting to see how those conversations with the local representatives and Mayor Cantrell, Governor Landry, how those progress tonight, if they progress, while they, of course, are also making the victims the main focus this evening. As you can see, the motorcade appears to be leaving. Most of these cars are clearing out, and we haven't seen anyone get off of the plane in quite a few minutes. So it does look like everyone will be heading towards downtown now.
All right, the presidential motorcade in motion there, as Amelia just mentioned, a number of cars participating in that as President Joe Biden and First Lady Dr. Jill Biden make their way to the French Quarter to mourn with some of the victims of the Bourbon Street terror attack. Now, when the president usually visits, he's usually on the tarmac a bit longer than he was today, but this is a much different visit than we're used to seeing him here for. I'm
sure that with this visit now in the aftermath of this horrific terror attack, that all security measures have been heightened. Even we just found out recently, and typically they don't let you know when the president is going to arrive ahead of time, but we just found out recently when he's going to get here. We do know that there is a private meeting that is happening between President Biden, Dr. Joe Biden, and some of the victims' families. We do also know that there are some people, we don't know this, but this was my assumption, is with the number of victims that are still in the hospital, that are still going through recovery, especially over at UMC, he may make a stop there to speak to those victims' families. But again, we're necessarily clear on if that is going to happen. What we are clear on is that live shot that you have right here on the side of your screen, that is side of St. Louis Cathedral. Later on, in about a couple of hours, there will be an interfaith prayer service happening there, and we are told that President Biden is participating.
Yes, he should be making some remarks at that service. We will, of course, bring that to you live here on Channel 4 for anybody who wants to watch and pray with the president and First Lady, our dignitaries in the city, and of course, just the family and friends of those who've been affected by this senseless and horrible tragedy on Bourbon Street. But, the motorcade is in motion. It is moving through the city. So if you are trying to get around right now, it's going to be difficult. You might want to take some back streets, avoid the interstate. Those entrances and exits to much of I-10 will be shut down as the president is making his way down to the French Quarter. So avoid those areas if you can. Find an alternate route.
Okay, we did see Mayor LaToya Cantrell down on the grounds to greet President Biden. We, as far as I've seen, and I've not seen, and Amelia Strahan also says that she didn't see as well, Governor Jeff Landry, we don't know if he was there, but we are told that President Biden will be joining Governor Jeff Landry to discuss a request for a presidential disaster declaration.
Yes.
Of course, this is going to assist us in security efforts and efforts to monitor all of the safety for everyone in this community in the aftermath of this disaster.
Yeah, the governor is expected to participate in the service and be a part of all the things that the president is doing. So lots of people coming together, both political parties involved here. Politics aside, this is a time for mourning and for are experiencing and feeling that loss that we have as a community. And that's going to do it for us, and we're going to send you back to regular programming, but we will see you for the WWL Louisiana News at 5, and of course we'll carry that service for you live here at 6.
This has been breaking news from WWL Louisiana.